gathering right before that for 2 days at the Cauliflower Collective in the Mission.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How did you pay for this food?
Okay, so all of our food is, majority of it is recovered. So back to the very beginning, very good point. So the very beginning, I was a produce worker. I was like 21. I was studying painting at Boston University and sculpture. And so in the mornings, I would work produce. And I had worked at the food co-op, Boston Food Co-op, but I got this job at Bread and Circus, which was the second commercial natural food store in New England.
In New England?
In New England.
Okay.
Erewhon had one, was the other one, and that was older than Bread and Circus. They eventually sold out to Whole Foods. But anyway, I would be throwing away all this produce, and I would take it to the housing projects on Portland Ave, a few blocks away from where the store was. Yeah, so I would take at the end of my shift, I would take all the food I took off the shelves that couldn't be sold, and I would take it to Portland Avenue to these mothers who were living in this housing project. And one day across the street, they pointed out this new building across the street, and they said that's where they're designing nuclear weapons. And that's where I got the name Food Not Bombs. I was on a flyer where I said, we were the Food for Free Committee. We were for a few weeks called the Food for Free Committee. Actually, before that, we were called the Food and Drug Administration because our fundraising was selling mushrooms and acid and pot. And so anyway, but then we thought, well, the cops might pick up on that right away. So then we're Food for Free for a few weeks, and then we're like, and on one of those flyers that said "Food Not Bombs, we never sell out." And so then. So we thought that would be a great name. So what we did was set up a system where we would drive. So when we gave 2 weeks notice to everybody, I was working at Bread and Circus, and I said, like, hey, can I pick up the produce that you're throwing out? And they were like, oh, cool. And then I knew the tofu company, and they said, can you give me all the scraps? Just leave it on the loading dock. I'll pick it up. So we'd have free tofu. And then we have Warburton's Bakery and Au Bon Pain and all these bakeries. And we would drive around all morning picking up all the food. Haymarket on the weekends, we'd go down to Haymarket by North End. And then we would take all that food, and then we would deliver the food to housing projects. We had like a whole schedule where we go from the housing projects in Cambridge and Somerville and Boston. And then we would have a meal with street theater and music in either War Memorial Park or Brattle Square or Copley Square or something like that. And we do that every afternoon. And we'd have these themes for our meals, so we'd pretend like we were protesting the war, it would be a drama for the war in El Salvador, or it would be like a solar power thing, or it would be whatever that we'd make these like little plays and puppets and give out the food and dress up and have music. And we had these drummers that would come and did with 2 full drum sets, Bobby and Sue, and they would do like King Crimson and all this stuff. It was like amazing. And we did that like for years. Yeah, it was great. And then, and so anyway, that's how we picked up the food, and that became the first model. And then when I started the second group in San Francisco, I made this flyer called Ultimately. So when I started in San Francisco, I was working at this place called Bob's Typing. And so I just started going down the street, and I went to the Tom's Natural Food, and I went to House of Bagels and get their bagels. And then I started this whole little route, and I did that, and I would take it to Glide Memorial Church or St. Anthony's. Anyway, so setting up that system of collecting the food became, like the first step. So in San Francisco. And then so I go to Tom's and House of Bagels and all that and pick up the food and take it to Glide and St. Anthony's. But then I started figuring out where to have the best place to serve, and we tried.
I can't breathe. Okay.
So anyway, we figured out a good location, the entrance to Golden Gate Park, to do the street theater and so have the food and everything. And so because that way all these. So anyway, so And anyway, we decided to do it at the corner of Haight and Stanley, the entrance to Golden Gate Park, because you could go down Haight Street, you could see the Food Not Bombs sign, and tourists came by, plus there was like hundreds of people living in the park, so it was a perfect place to serve. And we chose Monday because there was no meals in the Haight-Ashbury on Mondays, but there was Tuesday through Friday, had the soup kitchen, and then there were 2 churches. So that's how we figured out the logistics. And then when we got arrested, people from all over the world started calling or writing letters wanting to start another Food Not Bombs, to say, like, screw them for arresting you, we'll do one in our city. So I took the notes that I made for making that, starting the second chapter from scratch, because the other one kind of evolved, and I made it into a flyer called 7 Steps to Starting a Food Not Bombs, and then I would mail that to people, and they would start their own groups. So by the time of the World Gathering in 92, there were chapters in Victoria, British Columbia, Vancouver, Montreal, but also New York City and Portland, Seattle. There was a bunch of different chapters. And so then at that gathering, we decided that there'd be 3 principles, that the food would always be free, would be vegan, vegetarian, and free to anyone, rich or poor, drunk or sober. That there'd be no presidents, headquarters, directors. Each group would be autonomous, and everybody in the group, including people relying on the food, would have equal power in making decisions. And that the final thing was that we weren't a charity, but they were dedicated to nonviolent direct action to change society, so no one had to eat in the park or sleep in the woods, that kind of thing. And so that became our 3 principles that we still hold today. And we at the 95 Food Not Bombs gathering, World Gathering, there was like 1,000 people there. We agreed that was our principles, and that we've always held on to them. And that's why it's been able to go to every continent except for Antarctica.
Wow.
Because of that holds us together. Each group's autonomous, and you can use the logo however you want. You can, as long as you're dedicated to nonviolence and you don't have any requirements for food and you don't have any leadership, then you're Food Not Bombs, and it just made it go worldwide.
And then how did you get in Santa Cruz?
Oh, that's a long story. So I first came to Santa Cruz because my grandfather's from here, my grandmother, and so I had my first birthday here. And my grandfather retired. That grandfather retired from he was chief naturalist at Yosemite. So and then he retired to here. And so I came through here so much. I hung out on the wharf, painting the boardwalk, trying to sell paintings back in the 70s, and I've been homeless here randomly, and so then I was on a tour in right after Occupy, and this woman called me while I was up in Oregon, saying that she had ordered a print, but when she went to pay for it, it said "Play Dove," and that's because I copied the stuff from I designed my PayPal, my website myself, right, in my PayPal. So it was just a stupid mistake. But then I was saying, well, I'm going to be in the area. I'm speaking on the 10th of December in Sacramento at the Cindy Sheehan, for governor campaign or whatever the heck it was. And I could just come over to Santa Cruz and speak here. So they decided to do that. So I came here. And then Steve Fleisch was like, the Vets Hall is being renovated. There's no place for Christmas dinner. Can you feed 1,000 people? And so I said, yeah, I'm happy to feed 1,000 people. And the group were like, well, most we've fed was 50 people. But I said, well, I've fed 1,000 people before. So we organized this whole thing, and we have this amazing Christmas across the street at the post office. We got donated round tables from the party supply place, and we had poinsettias, we had a big banner across the whole thing, we had live music and dancing, and there were 750 meals. It was an amazing thing. And then the woman I was staying with, she was showing me how she cooked, which was she had this diet called SOS plant-based diet, where it was no sugar, no salt, no oil, and It was all plant-based, organic plant-based. So anyway, she said I had fibromyalgia really badly at the time, and so she, from that torture thing I told her about before, and so she like, well, True North in Santa Rosa owes me. I have a lot of credit with them for doing their software development for their medical statistics. So I'll let you. I can give you a month at True North Health doing a water-only fast. Maybe that'll cure your fibromyalgia. And then somebody donated $25,000 to Food Not Bombs the same day.
Wow.
So I didn't have to go on tour. So I went on a tour in Mexico, but I finished that tour and I came back and I did a month at True North, and it cured my fibromyalgia.
Oh.
So then I ended up living with her for a long time, and I had a farm at the time in Taos, New Mexico, and so I would go back there and teach permaculture and adobe brick building and things like that. I had this amazing scene there that I did for many years. So when I was with her name was Abby Samuels. When I was with her, I would fly back and forth to teach over there.
Wow.
And
But you were gone for a while, and then you came back to Santa Cruz.
Yeah, I was gone for many years. This would be I moved here permanently in after Occupy, so 2012, I think, something like that. December 12th, 2012. Yeah.
And you've been here ever since.
Ever since,
And
yeah. And I was down here a lot during the early arrests of Food Not Bombs because they were arresting Joe Schultz and other people back then. And so I'd come down here to denounce the city government for arresting Jane Imler and No Guns and all them for serving food over there.
well, this was such a pleasure, Keith.
Yeah, thanks.
And we'll see what we can do to get this up. And for anybody watching this, please